Happy Saturday, everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. It is a lovely summer evening here in New York City. I hope it's lovely where you are. But believe it or not, this is the recap show of the show part. Wow, it's been over a year. I've been counting down on the show part. We have 40 tips. Hi Rufus, thanks so much for joining me today on Singing Tips. This is the recap show of the show part. Yes, hi Danny, how are you? So we've had 40 tips in the show part. We had 4 sections: your talent, your live performance, your original music. Hi Auntie. Hi Nadine, hello. Your image. So there's 4 sections to the show part that we've had tips in. There are 10 tips in each section. So of course I'm not gonna go through every single tip. Well, what I'll do is for each section I'll run through the tips quickly, but I have 3 top tips that I'll highlight. Good evening, how are you, dear? I will highlight. Thank you, Auntie. Yes, can you believe, it's been over a year. I've been talking about the show part, and we are done with the show part. I mean, it's never over, but we're going to be talking more from the business side coming up. But yeah, so I have 2 recap shows. So this is part 1. So we're going to go through the tips, and part 2, we'll be talking about the experts. So we've had a total of 9 people who have contributed to the show part. So we had, I think I wrote it down, 5 show experts, and we had 4 show contributors, which is a total of 9 people. So I just want to thank everyone who has, first of all, who supported Singing Tips. I want to thank all of the contributors, all of the show experts for bringing their talents, taking the time to, address the audience and to share their knowledge. And I just want to thank everyone who involved, because truly it takes more than one person to make anything successful. So the audience, I want to thank you guys for hanging in there with me. And when I don't do shows, I've had people say, hey, what happened? Why didn't you do your show? So I feel like, I hope that someone is getting something out of these Singing Tips, because I just put up the last blog. I think I put the link on my Facebook page. I just put up the blog, last week's blog. We had a great show last week. I don't know if you guys saw it. My friend Martha invited me out to Astoria, Queens, and it was a lovely place. And we went to Socrates Sculpture Park. So there was some great art pieces there. So we did the recap of the experts for the image show and that show. So this week it's all about the show part. So everything that we talked about in the show part that will help you become a professional singer, we're going to go over. We had some experts for all of the show parts. So what I'm going to do is, that's going to be part 2. I'm going to have a separate show to highlight the experts, because we had a lot of great people, a lot of great information, and I don't want to miss anything. I think that it deserves its own show, because there's a lot of information we got to get through today. So I may not do a lot of repeating, because a lot of times I repeat stuff, but it's a lot of information. So what I decided to do was, I'm gonna highlight each section, run through the tips, but there's 3 main tips. Oh, hello Henry and Robert, thanks so much for joining. So I'm gonna just highlight 3 tips out of each section, because it would take us forever to go through 40 tips. We're not gonna do that. So anyway, for those of you who don't know me or what I'm doing or what this is all about, my name is Benita Charles. I am a New York vocalist by way of Detroit, by way of Gurdon, Arkansas, by way of Arkadelphia, Arkansas. So I've gone through a lot of different places, but I'm here in New York right now. And I have experiences as a singer, a songwriter, a producer, now a teacher. So all of my experiences, I feel like I can help someone else. So that's why I created the Singing Tips series. And so I was inspired to design the tips, this show this way from, I think you guys have heard this story for over a year. The movie Get On Up, the story of James Brown. It chronicles his life from birth to his death, and his career, his life. And James Brown was, of course, you know, the godfather of soul entertainment. He called himself, and he was right, the hardest working man in show business. But he also was a businessman. And it really made me feel like, you know what, it's so true. You know, a lot of times as artists, especially if you go to school, like I studied opera, I studied performance art. You're focused so much on technique, you're focused so much on performance, but nobody really stops to talk to you about how do you make money as a singer? How do you market yourself? How do you set yourself to be great? How do you know? So this is more about artist development more so than actually technique. I feel like if you need technique, I'm not the person for you. There are certified vocal teachers that can do that, but what I'm focusing on really would be considered artist development, because I'm taking you from the first thing you should do, the first steps you should do to making money as a singer. So that's what Singing Tips is all about. With James Brown, there's a show part and there's a business part, and that's what made me design Singing Tips the way I designed it. So we have a show part. We've had 40 tips in the show part, and over a year we've been going through all of these tips. And so we're finally through the show part, and we're getting ready to go to the business part, because that's kind of how you make money. Well, that is how you make money. And but right now I want to highlight what we've done, and we've accomplished a lot. When I was going through this material, I said, wow. I mean, I'm not one to toot my own horn, but I was like, this is some great information. This is some good. A lot of things that I forgot about, a lot of things I knew but I forgot, and it's like great refreshing for me. So I hope that this is helpful. So let's just get through it. So the first part that we discussed was your talent, and I put in parentheses the foundation. So this is where it all starts. If you want to be a singer, you see yourself on stage, you see yourself on Good Morning America, you see yourself on the big stage. Here there's a big stage called Madison Square Garden, but it all starts with your talent. That is the foundation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the 10 tips that I discussed when it comes to your talent. So number 1, start learning songs. Number 2, warm up your voice. Number 3, I did a Prince tribute, and Prince is the ultimate performer. He was a writer, a producer, a businessman. He was the first to really have his own record label online. So he was a pioneer. Number 4, establish a rehearsal schedule. Number 5, build your repertoire. Number 6, take care of your voice. Number 7, share your gift to the world. Number 8, write your own songs. Number 9, find a certified voice teacher. And number 10, learn a musical instrument. So I said I'm going to just highlight 3 of those, because it'll be too long for us to go through one by one. So I say for your talent, the foundation, the top 3 tips are: 1, start learning songs; 2, establish a rehearsal schedule; and 3, find a certified voice teacher. So if you do those 3 things, I feel like that's going to help you, because all of those tips are great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like these 3 things will help you out of everything. Start learning songs. This is going to help you build your repertoire. This is going to help you strengthen your voice. This is going to help you learn your voice, learn what you can do, what's a good voice. Hi Joe, thanks so much for coming in. We're recapping the show part of Singing Tips. So if you've been with me for over a year, I've been going through all of these tips. So I'm going to break down the show part section by section, giving the top 3 tips for each section. So for your talent, the foundation, the top 3 tips are: start learning songs, establish a rehearsal schedule, and find a certified voice teacher. I feel like if you do those 3 things, that's going to set you up for everything else. When you start learning songs, like I said, you're going to learn your voice. You're going to learn what your range is. You're going to learn what's comfortable for you. And also you're going to learn how to work a song. You're going to learn how to make the song your own. And number 2, establish a rehearsal schedule. This is going to help you build your voice. This is going to help you get your repertoire in shape, and then you'll be ready. Like if somebody calls you for a gig, you'll be so rehearsed up that you'll be just ready to just, and you'll be able to do, like when people have requests, because you're learning songs, because you're building your repertoire, you'll be able to sing on command, which is what you want, and people will pay you for that. Number 3, find a certified voice teacher. Now this is going to help you protect your voice. This is going to help you learn how to sing correctly. This is going to help you increase your range. A certified voice teacher, which is what I'm not, and I don't get on here to say I am. I direct you to a certified voice teacher. That's the person that's going to help you sing. When you go in the studio, your voice is going to be professional, because that voice teacher is going to help you learn how to sing properly. Proper breath, proper posture, all those things. That the voice teacher is going to help you with that. So for your talent, to me, those are the top 3 things. Okay, so the next section is your live performance, and I put in parentheses experience. Live performing is going to help you gain experience. So from the first section, because to me these are building blocks. These sections are designed in a certain way. These are building blocks. So the first section was your talent. Now, moving into live performance, this is experience. This is where you get your experience. This is how you become a professional singer. From experience. You're not gonna be able to get it just by rehearsing. You gotta get it, because another thing, when you sing in front of people, it kind of puts you on a different level. You kind of have to level up. You're in front of people, so but the thing is, you're rehearsed up, so you're gonna be in rehearsal. This is where you make your mistakes. This is where you hit your bad notes, so that when you get in front of people, you're going to be so good, you're going to be so confident, they're going to want more. They're going to pay you to sing. And that's the thing about singing in front of audience. So I had my first show expert for this section was Minister Angela Williams of Deerfield Beach, Florida. And she appeared on episode 19, Always Use a Set List. But her speech was so phenomenal, and it was called Pre-Pack for the Journey. And she talked about how you have to get yourself ready, because you have to get yourself out there, because someone is waiting for what you have to offer. And I'll get more into it on the experts recap. But I wanted to highlight that she was my first guest expert, and she appeared September 10th, 2016. And so she is the first expert for the live performance section. And so live performance, this is where you get your experience. So let's just run through the tips quickly. So tip number 11, sing in front of an audience. Tip number 12, project your voice when you sing. Tip number 13, how to handle technical difficulties and interruptions. Tip number 14, singing with live musicians versus performance tracks. Tip number 15, engage your audience. Tip number 16, how to stay motivated when the going gets tough. Tip number 17, equipment every singer should own. Tip number 18, performing with a live band. Tip number 19, always use a set list. And tip number 20, choose your song wisely, song choice. Okay, so to me, in your live performance section, the top 3 tips are: number 1, sing in front of an audience. That's pretty self-explanatory. So you've been rehearsing, it's time to get out there. And in this section, I had ran down a couple of places. Like, for instance, when you first starting out, you might want to try your church. because your church is such a loving audience, and they're forgiving, and they're you know, they're usually nice. Not like the Apollo audience. Open mics is another place to start, because you don't have to worry about spending any money. You just show up and you sing a song or two, and usually there's a live band. But you gotta, the only drawback is you have to wait. Sometimes you gotta wait a long time, but it's good experience. And then an artist showcase. And number 2, I said, to me, another standout tip is how to handle technical difficulties and interruptions. Because if you know how to handle yourself on stage, oh, thank you for the thumbs up. If you know how to handle yourself on stage, you can handle any situation, because there's gonna be times where something will go wrong, audio will go out, or your mic will go out, and I feel like it's best to remain calm, be courteous, and also try to, you know, calm the audience down by making a joke, or, you know, singing a cappella, but just making the audience know, hey, it's okay, we'll get through this. And it just makes for a better show, and it makes you feel better. I don't think it helps anyone if you're yelling and screaming and cursing and all that. So the third tip I feel like for your live performance is the most important is every equipment every singer should own. That show was really great. I had like a lot, but I have 3 things I feel like is the most important. Number 1, a mic, a microphone. You might think it's a no-brainer, but having your own mic is so important, because you may show up to a gig and they may not have equipment. They may not have a mic. So always carry it with you. Just don't forget it, because sometimes the worst thing is to show up on a gig and there's no mic for you. You know, the audience won't be able to hear you. So I have microphone and mic stand, your own mic stand. Because, hi Ernesto, hello, God bless you too. Thank you. You're always giving me some wonderful blessings. I appreciate you. Number 2, a portable PA system. Now, if you ever see the artists on the street performers, they have the little small PAs. I think that's a really good thing to have, because, you know, if you do a small restaurant gig, or kind of a small, or even a medium-sized gig, they really carry a lot of juice, and I think they're really good. So it's good to have your own, because a lot of places don't have it. So if you get hired to go to a little restaurant, or even perform outside, it's good to have your own. You know, it's always ask. You know, sometimes people do, but a lot of times they don't. So a portable PA system. And number 3, percussion instruments. Sometimes when you're in a band and you're not singing, you can do a little tambourine, or have a little triangle, or little shakers, you know, so that's good. So every equipment every singer should own. So recap, top 3 tips for your live performance would be sing in front of an audience. So find a place to sing. Number 2, learn how to handle technical difficulties and interruptions. And number 3, equipment every singer should own: a microphone, a portable PA system, and percussion instruments. So that is your live performance, section 2. So section 3 is your original music, and I have in parentheses for that is self-expression. So I think every singer should write their own music. It's great to learn cover songs, and don't get me wrong, I love cover songs, but every singer, I feel like, has a voice and has experience, and I think they should write their own music, because that comes from them. And you'll be creating your own cover music, because people will be covering your songs. So I had a show expert for that section, which is Azania Noah. She's a singer, songwriter, performer, international vocalist, and teacher. She has a CD called Rising. It's available on azania.com, and she's the teacher and founder of the Singer Elite community, singereliteclub.com. Her show aired on October 15, 2016. Tip number 22, song topics. So we'll go through all of the show experts on a more detailed show, but I just wanted to highlight them as we go along. And so your original music, self-expression. So the tips were Tip number 21, write your own songs, your original music. Tip number 22, choose your song topic. Tip number 23 was song structure. Tip number 24 was music and lyrics. Tip number 25, elements of a hit song. Tip number 26, how to conquer writer's block. Tip number 27, protect your work, copyright it. Tip number 28, 3 key reasons why you should collaborate. Tip number 29, working with a producer. And tip number 30, the recording process and completing your music. So, out of your original music section, to me, the top 3 tips are write your own songs, protect your work, the recording process, and completing your song. So for write your own songs. I just feel like every singer should write their own songs. There is no right or wrong way to write a song. You can be as creative as you want. Hi Kurt, how are you? Thanks so much for joining. We're doing a recap of the show part of Singing Tips, and I'm going through all 4 sections, quickly going through the tips, but then I'm giving like top 3 tips of each section. So what I'm gonna do is, because it's so much material, when I do a recap, I'm only gonna do a recap of the top 3 tips of each of the sections, you know, when we go back. So, because it's too much to go through all these tips. We have 40 tips in the show part, believe it or not. So I feel like every artist should write their own music. And to me, the top 3 tips for this section would be write your own songs, number 1. Number 2, protect your work. So after you write your songs, copyright it. And in that show, I talked about, you know, where to go. But, you know, Google copyright, Google Library of Congress, and you can get to the website where you can copyright your music. But always copyright your music before you release it, because the worst thing is you don't want your songs out there, somebody grabs it, it's not copyrighted, and they copyright it, and then you try to sue and they're like, no, it's my song, but you know it's your song, but you can't do anything about it because you didn't copyright it. So to me, that's important. Number 3, the recording process. So once you finish your song, I had a show about, you know, going in the studio, working with a producer, preparing yourself, making sure you're prepared, and then you lay down your tracks, and then the producer does the final mix, and then we have pre-production, post-production, where you go to a mastering company, get it mastered before you get it pressed and printed, because that mastering process, and I think now you don't even have to go to a separate company, because the person who worked on my music recently, he did it all in one shot. He mixed it and he mastered it. But you gotta have that mastering on your song, because that's what gives it that radio ready crisp. When you hear stuff on the radio and it just, the vocals are so clean and clear and loud, everything is leveled right, that's the mastering process. So that show, I talked about that. So to me, in the original music section, the top 3 tips are write your own songs, protect your work, copyright your songs, and learn the recording process, and get your song recorded and released. So that is the original music section. Those were tips 21 through 30. So the last section is your image, and we just actually did a recap of that. And I had the most show experts in this section. So in your image section, I had Roxy Siegel, New York stylist and hairstylist, and hair designer. She did my CD Moments in Love. I actually showed it to the people on Periscope, so what did I do with it? Yeah, she actually did the Moments in Love CD. Here we go. She was the stylist for my Moments in Love CD. And she don't know it, but she's gonna be my stylist. She's my stylist forever. But she did a great job with she did the hair, makeup, and the wardrobe for Moments in Love. And we had Ed Preacher Man Holly, who's a music artist. I'm actually in his band, Preacher Man and the Revival. He was a guest contributor for the time management section, because he is one of the most timely people, punctual people I know. So he really helped with that section. Carolyn Jones on June 4th, she did, what was it? Holistic and self-care for artists. So she's an author, and she has a book, Pick Up Your Bed and Walk. And we had a great show. You can't see it, it's on Amazon. We had a great show. She talked about different things, holistic things artists can use for their voice. And as I said, I'm going to do a separate show for the contributors, and we really, you know, get really into it. But I just wanted to highlight them. And show contributors for the image section, we had Nadine Dillon, who is actually on the line now. Dina's Jewelry, she made me some beautiful pieces. And Nadine, if you're still on the line, please put your link, your link to your website, Dina's Jewelry. And let's see if I can. I should have wore it. Sorry, I actually have been wearing it. Don't think I haven't been wearing it, Nadine. But she did a lovely necklace for me and earrings to match. But Dina's Jewelry, she makes homemade jewelry, and these are earrings. But yeah. So, Nadine, if you're still on the line, please put your website, dinasjewelry.com. Jennifer Byers, a lady that I met at Blue Mercury Cosmetics in Tribeca. She did a makeover for me using Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, and that was, that aired on April 3rd, but I don't remember what, I thought I had written down what, I did write it down at some point what tip it was, but yeah, she did. You know what, I'll have it on my other show, my expert show. And then last week I had a new location in Queens, and so Paul and Martha LaPierre, they're like my location scouts, so I'm their guest contributors. So we had a lot of contributors for the image section, but I want to thank all of my contributors in all of the show part. Oh, Nadine, thank you. She just put her website for her jewelry, homemade, handmade jewelry, and beautiful pieces, lovely pieces. Yeah, so we're gonna do another. Oh, thank you for the hearts. So we're gonna actually do. Oh, thanks so much, Auntie. Yeah, you know what? We have to support each other. We really do, because I mean that's what it's all about, is supporting each other. And we have some talented people in this world, and we know talented people, and if we don't highlight each other, who will? So we really do. We have talented people, and we have to highlight each other. So we will do a special show with the experts, and we'll really I'll really get into, you know, what they brought and what, you know, what they meant to me. But I wanted to just mention them, but I don't want them to think I'm hurrying over them. But we're gonna have a special show for the experts. So so the image section, and I have in parentheses your calling card, because the image is the first thing that people see when they see your image, when they see your appearance, when you interact with them. That's their impression of you. That's your calling card, you know. So your image consists of your appearance, communication, and your behavior. So we had tips that dealt with all of those different segments of your image. So briefly, your image was tips 31 through 40. So tip number 31, image is everything. Tip number 32 was about image, self-image, and self-care. Tip number 33 was your appearance. Tip number 34 was effective communication. Tip number 35 was your communication, your message. Tip number 36, your behavior, your reputation. Tip number 37, your behavior, time management. Tip number 38, your behavior, self-discipline. Tip number 39, your behavior, self-confidence. And tip number 40, your behavior, self-esteem. So to me, now this was a little harder to try to figure out top 3, because there's so many important ones. So I feel like I kind of had to put some things together. So to me, the number 1 tip for this section was your self-image and your self-esteem. Those two things, I feel like, because your self-image is how you see yourself, and your self-esteem is how you feel about yourself, and that's from the inside. And you really need a healthy self-esteem, to me, in general, for everything, for every aspect of your life, because it really does affect how you live your life. It affects how you deal with people. It affects how you pursue your career. You know, if you have low self-esteem, a lot of times you won't go for things because you'll have a lot of self-doubt. You'll lack self-confidence. You won't live your full potential. So to me, I feel like out of everything, out of all 40 tips, your self-esteem and your self-image is the most important thing. So you really, if you don't have high self-esteem, I feel like you really should work on trying to build your self-esteem. And in that show, I mentioned that sometimes things are beyond your control. Sometimes things have happened in your life that can knock your self-esteem down, and you may need some professional help, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I want to encourage you, if that's the case, to do that. But you need to feel good about yourself, because you're not going to be able to do anything in this world. You're going to always shoot yourself in the foot if your self-esteem is not there. Number two, I feel like self-discipline and time management together. I feel like those two things, self-discipline is one of those things that will help you get to where you need to go, because one of the things that our guest contributor Ed Preacher Man Holly said, his father said to him, do what you have to do so that you could do what you want to do. So do what you got. He said, do what you got to do, which I like. Do what you got to do so that you could do what you want to do. And to me, that's self-discipline, because there's going to be a lot of times when you don't feel like doing something, you got to do it. And the third thing I have is your communication, your message, because how you present yourself to the world is going to be in everything that you do. So your message, for me, my message is inspiring the world. So everything I do, I want it to be in terms of inspiration, inspiring. I hope that's the case. But that's, I feel like that's important. So your image, I mean, because, you know, a lot of times people think your image is just how you look, your appearance. And I think that is important. But I think if you have that self-esteem and that positive self-image, you're going to make sure you look right. So I feel like that's the most important thing. Self-discipline and time management, those are things that's going to help you become professional and help you achieve and get the job done. And your message is what you communicate to the world through your music, through your image, through your, you know, how you speak to people, through your copy, through your promotion. So I feel like those are the top 3 things in terms of your image. So I know this is fast. I hope, is everybody still with me? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Any feedback out there? What do you think? That's it though. That's all of the sections. I went through everything. I know it was speed through, but I hope this is helpful. I'll do a little recap, but I'm only going to do a recap of the top 3. Oh, got a thumbs up. Okay, so you agree, you think that these things are helpful. Honestly, some of these things, especially like the things I went over in the image, a lot of these things don't just apply to artists, don't just apply to singers. It applies to anyone with a career. It applies to anyone with a job. Time management, self-discipline, come on, you know, we all can use it. So, okay, just to do a recap. Oh, hello. Oh, thank you for the heart. I mean, there's thumbs up. Appreciate that. Just to do a recap, I am Benita Charles. This is Singing Tips. We have had 40 tips in the show part. So I'm just doing a recap of all the sections. We have 4 sections in the show part. 40 tips. I'm not going to do a recap of all 40. I'm just going to do the top 3 tips that I feel like that's important for every singer. But of course, there may be other things that are important to you. Now, if you want to get through all of these tips, you want to go to, you know, see all the videos, go to my blog, BCM Sings on Instagram. Click on the link. You will find all of the tips there. I've archived everything. Everything is up to date. I just did the last show that we did, the expert show on the image. So all of the recap shows, all 40 tips are there. I have videos. I put it on YouTube. You can go to my YouTube channel, Benita Charles, and there's a playlist called Singing Tips, and all of the videos are there. So it's all there. But so singing tips is divided into the show part and the business part. And that was inspired by Get On Up, the movie of James Brown, because James Brown was not only the hardest working man in show business, the godfather of soul, the greatest entertainer ever, he also was a businessman. So I said, you know what? I think we should design singing tips that way. So we have been counting down the show part for over a year, and we are done. Believe it or not, everyone, I know you didn't think it was going to happen. You're like, this girl keeps talking about the show part, the business part. But we did it. We did all 40 tips, and this is the recap show of, this is part 1 of the show part, because part 2, we're going to highlight the experts. So we had 9 contributors in the show part. We had 5 experts and 4 show contributors. So we're going to highlight everyone in the next show. But just want to give you a rundown. The show experts for your live performance, we had Minister Angela Williams, who appeared in singing tip number 19, September 10th, 2016. We had Azania Noah, who appeared in tip number 22, October 15, 2016, in Your Original Music section. For the image section, we had Roxy Siegel, Finding Your Style, Ed Preacher Man Holly, Time Management, Carolyn Jones, Self-Care for Artists. Roxy was March 4th, 2017. Ed Preacher Man Holly was April 15th, and Carolyn Jones was 6/4/2017. For our show contributors, for the image section, we had our business sponsor, Nadine Dillon, who's on the line now. Jewelry maker, businesswoman, D Nash Jewelry is her company, dnashjewelry.com. She put her link here. Beautiful pieces. We had Jennifer Byers, a representative of Bobby Brown Cosmetics from Blue Mercury Cosmetics in Tribeca, and Paul and Martha LaPierre, which is our location scouts. She gave us a wonderful location last week at Astoria, Queens. So we will do in our highlight show of our experts. I'll give you more, more detail of the experts. I'll give you their bios and just kind of like share some of the things the takeaways that they shared with us, and show you some of the things. But since this is such a long show, I wanted to give them their own show. But yeah, so just to give you a recap of the show part, we've had 4 sections: your talent, your live performance, your original music, and your image. So the top 3 tips from each of those sections, because we're not going to go through all 40 tips. We'll be here all night. I know you guys love me, but I know you got things to do. So the top 3 tips of your talent: start learning songs, establish a rehearsal schedule, and find a certified voice teacher. The top 3, sorry, let's get my papers together. That was, sorry, my papers got out of order. So the top 3 tips of your live performance was to sing in front of an audience, handle yourself, learn how to handle technical difficulties and interruptions, and every equipment that you should own is a mic stand, portable PA system, and percussion instruments. Your original music. The top 3 tips for your original music is write your own songs, protect your songs, copyright them, and learn the recording process, and record and complete and release your own songs. And finally, for the image section, sorry guys, I should have had it on order. The top 3 tips for your image is to improve your self-image and self-esteem. Make sure it's high, because that affects every aspect of your life. It affects your relationships, it affects your career, it affects how you see the world, how you handle the world. And number 2, self-discipline and time management. That affects your work. That affects how effective you're going to be in your work. Self-discipline is something you're going to need to make sure you're on top of getting studying and learning and getting better and practicing and working and doing all the things you need to do to make sure you're on point. time management, making sure you're on time, punctual. And to me, the third thing is your communication, your message to the world, because that's going to be in everything you do, every aspect of how you feel about yourself. The world is going to be in your image, it's going to be in how you speak, it's going to be in how you interact with people. So those are the things I feel like are the most important things out of the show part, that every artist, and even some of these things, like I said, if you're not an artist, some of these things can apply to you. These are things that are important. I think that's gonna help you get to that next level. So that's it for me. That's the wrap up of the show part. We did it, all 40 tips. Like I said, everything is on the blog. I'll have this recap show up soon, and next time we'll do a recap of the experts. We had 9 contributors to the show part. I want to thank everyone for yours. I want to thank you for hanging in there with me, for still being with me after all this time with Singing Tips. I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank all of the contributors, everyone who contributed to the success of Singing Tips. I have people coming up to me at work telling me how they really like Singing Tips and how it has helped them. And I want to thank everyone who has shared with me how Singing Tips has helped you. And please, I would like some testimonials. So if you could send me a message, a direct message, or send me an email, benitaonline@yahoo.com or benita.p.charles@gmail. That's a long one, so maybe the Yahoo one. benitaonline@yahoo. You know, send me a message and let me know, how has Singing Tips helped you? If it's helped you, let me know. I would really like to know. It really, it's a lot of work, but I feel like if it helps someone, it's worth it. So please let me know if it's helped you. Thank you so much for your support, and we will be moving into, once we get through the next recap show, we will be moving into the business part. So I think there's like 4 sections to the business part as well. So we will be counting them down. I have some other ideas for Singing Tips once we get through all the tips in the business part. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. If you're in the New York area and there's a place that you would like me to broadcast from, maybe we can get together and let me know. Because I know people outside of New York, they're interested in all of the places we have here. We got a lot of cool spots here. A lot of free things here. You know, there's a lot of things you can do for free. So just like last week, we were at the Socrates Sculpture Park. That was free, and it was wonderful art there. So yeah, anybody in the other boroughs like Brooklyn, Bronx, if there's any places you'd like for me to highlight, let me know. I'm open for suggestion. So thank you so much, everyone, for your support of Singing Tips. As I said before, the blog is located on BCM Sings Instagram. If you click on that bio link, it takes you right to the blog of. But I'm on Instagram on Benita Charles as well. But the Singing Tips blog will take you right to, well, the link on the BCM Sings on Instagram, that link in the bio will take you to the blog. It'll take you to the Singing Tips blog. I'm on YouTube, so if you go to Benita Charles on YouTube, it will link you. You can go to the playlist and you can go see all of the videos. But also, I forgot to mention, BenitaCharles.com, which is my website, has links to all of my social media. So it links to YouTube, it links to Instagram, it links to Twitter, Facebook, all of that. So if you go to BenitaCharles.com, that's a one-stop shop. Click on, you can find those links, all those links there. SoundCloud is there, so yeah, if you want to hear some of the music. But thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. I hope that these Singing Tips are helpful. Please let me know if they are. I'm looking for testimonials to put in my book. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will see you next time, and I will highlight the next show is going to be a highlight of the experts. So we'll really get into who they are, what value they added to Singing Tips, the show part, and just to give you a rundown of who we will be talking about next week. So we have Minister Angela Williams of Oh, I had where she's from. You know what? She's from Florida. I know she's from Deer Park, Florida, or oh well. Sorry, Minister Angela. But anyway, she's from Florida. Azania Noah, she lives in Switzerland. Roxy Siegel is here in New York City. Ed Preacherman Holly is here in New York City. And Carolyn Jones is here in New York City. Nadine Dillon is here in New York City. Jennifer Byers, she's in New York City. And Paul and Martha LaPierre, they're in New York City. So we will go through all of our experts in the next show. But I want to thank them. Thank you, Nadine. You're on the line. Thank you so much for the beautiful jewelry and for being a contributor to the show. Thank you, everyone, for your support. And I will see you next time on Singing Tips.